Why do we garden? Is it worth it as far as the time, the money involved? Is it just something to do? Something to take up our time? Is it fun? Is it a chore? I don't think there's really a simple answer. I don't want to encourage somebody falsely. I don't want to discourage somebody. I just kind of want to share my thoughts on the whole gardening thing. Some pros, some cons. Maybe just open some minds. Things to think about anyways. I believe to a certain degree we are hardwired to plant things and grow things and harvest things. I think we are made to labor. In Genesis, we read about the fall of man, and God told Adam in Genesis chapter 3, verses 17, 18, 19, "Then to Adam he said, Because you have heeded the voice of your wife, and have eaten from the tree of which I commanded you, saying, You shall not eat of it, cursed is the ground for your sake. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you. And you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, till you return to the ground. For out of it you were taken, for dust you are, and to dust you shall return." I may be misapplying it slightly, but I still think we can appreciate that as to planting and weeding and harvesting and toiling in the dirt. I'll touch on some of the cons first, and one thing that always comes to mind is labor. If you're busy with a job, either as a single or as a married couple, if you both work and you try to garden any large amount, it's just going to take up a lot of time. It's very labor intensive. You don't have to put in the time, but if you don't, you won't get much to eat either. The other thing that would come to mind is seasonal disadvantages. If you feel like green beans in January, you can run to the supermarket and get some. But the thing is, we can still do that even if we garden. We just have the option of eating homegrown sometimes. As far as drought, weeds, bugs go, those can all bother somebody and just give us a hard time trying to raise decent vegetables. Bugs are a nuisance. We can spray for them. We can still keep our pesticide use to a minimum, herbicides, but the weather, if we get drought or if we get a rainy season, it's just going to wreak havoc with the plants at times, especially some of the more tender plants and the ones that, are nearing harvest or something. We can't forget about the expense of starting a garden either, be it raised beds or a plot of ground. If you just turn over some lawn and start a garden, it will grow, but it will take fertilizer and it will take some time, some tending to it. There are vegetables that you can grow that will not cause as much issue, but as far as cons go, there's always some things that will not work out in your favor. Now let's talk about the pros too. There's a whole list of them, at least in my opinion. We think about the fun. It's just fun to garden, to grow things, to eat, to raise your own food. It keeps your hands and your mind from being too idle. There's seldom much good that comes from just sitting around doing nothing, especially if we do that day after day. There's quite a sense of accomplishment, even just in getting seeds planted. Trust me, by the time they're harvested, there's a whole lot more, but even just planting is quite an accomplishment. The produce that you do get will be clean. It won't be, by clean I mean like organic or pesticide free to the extent that we choose for ourselves. If we want to use some Sevin or some mild herbicides or something, there's really nothing wrong with that. And trust me, it's got less than what the mass-produced vegetables and fruits at the supermarket do. We can get a lot more nutrients out of home-raised vegetables if we take them out of the garden, take them in to the stove, or just directly on the table and eat them whole. The more time that a vegetable spans between picked from the plant to being eaten, it will lose nutrients. It's a more eco-friendly option. There's no packaging, no trucking, no shipping, no supply chain issues with growing your own food. It's right there. All you have to do is harvest it. It is cheap. Once you're established, it costs less. Like I did mention before, it can be a bit of a cost up front to get started. We have a small family, got a few daughters, and they are still pretty young. It's a very good chore for them, helping to weed, to pick vegetables, to help to plant. They just love spending time in the dirt too. And for myself and possibly the rest of my family as well, the self-sufficiency part is a big deal. We want to be more self-sufficient, to depend less on the supply chain, depend less on the things that can go wrong, that did go wrong during COVID, and there's all kinds of other things that go on. If there's a drought in California, I don't want it affecting my vegetables on the table. If I grow my own, it shouldn't. One last thing to keep in mind, what are we going to leave as an inheritance? We can leave money, but what about skills? If we leave behind skills for those that are still here, when our time comes and we leave, our money, our skills are not going to be worth anything. The values, the principles that we teach our children or any other people that we are in contact with, that means so much more to some of us anyways. If you disagree with me, I'm not offended. We can have different opinions and still get along as far as I'm concerned. But I would rather leave values and principles and a certain skill set behind than I would just a hefty bank account. I don't know. Maybe you feel differently. Let me know what you think.